Hello, Scooby Doo fans! Welcome to my Season 2, Episode 3 review of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? To continue my 2023 Summer Special. So, I kicked off the Summer Special with a book review of the first Scooby Doo comic book, and you guys seem to have enjoyed that, so I'm happy to see that that's gotten great reception. But because of how great the episode reviews have been, and because I've been enjoying reviewing the episodes with you guys, I figured, why not just continue that during the summer special and just, finish the Where Are You series and move on to the next show. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to finish off Season 2 this summer, and then I'm going to go right to the sequel show and hopefully review most, if not all, of Season 1 of the next show, which I will get onto when we get there. But like I said last time, I reviewed issue number 1 of the first Scooby Doo comic book series, which is titled Scooby Doo, Where Are You? You got like I said, you guys enjoyed that, so thank you for the reception on that. And today, of course, I'll be covering Season 2, Episode 3 of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? Titled Jeepers, It's the Creeper, which was released on September 26, 1970. So the short synopsis of the episode is: a local school dance at a rural barn is disrupted by the Creeper, a zombie-like figure who has been seen at night robbing banks in town. The gang searches the woods and the countryside for clues while being chased by the Creeper and encountering an eccentric old hermit who wants their company. So for any newcomers that, haven't seen my previous reviews, or just to, tell you guys where I watch these episodes on, I will, of course, be watching it on the Scooby Doo Where Are You Complete Series box set. Go check it out if you haven't gotten it already. It's a great box set. It has every episode of the original series. It has some cool behind-the-scenes stuff, which I can't wait to watch and, get into. But, this episode is probably the most famous of Season 2, or at least one of the most famous. This episode seemed, at least to me, I believe most fans love this episode. Like, they're in love with it. And it's mainly due to the villain. The villain is a very iconic villain. It's the Creeper, a villain that is very well recognized by the Scooby-Doo community, is always considered one of the best monsters and villains. And this is considered a classic and one of the best episodes of the original series and of Season 2. However, do I think this is true? Do I really think this episode is worthy of being considered one of the best and is a classic episode? Or do I maybe see it as maybe a not-so-good episode that maybe is held up due to one aspect of it, which is the villain? Well, why don't we take a look at the episode to see whether I think it's a good or bad Scooby-Doo Where Are You episode. The episode begins with a bank guard driving through the even countryside when he notices that a log is blocking the road that he's driving on. So when he goes outside to move it, a mysterious, green face monster figure rises out of the bushes and attacks him. Meanwhile, the gang are on their way to the school's barn dance, which is pretty cool. I love that, the gang are acting like teenagers. They're on their way to, this high school dance with their classmates. Really awesome stuff. Love seeing the gang in their, teenage environment. And on their way there, they happen upon the scene of the bank guard's accident, when he was attacked by the Creeper. And they notice that he's been knocked out and that his car has been ransacked. The guard regains consciousness, though, and but not for too long, but long enough to give a blank piece of paper to Freddy. And this is what he mutters to him.
He's coming around.
The flame will tell the Creeper.
Thanks for the cryptic-ass clue, bank guard. Something like, "My boss is the Creeper," would have been a better response than "the flame will tell the Creeper." Like, really, with the cryptic-ass message, bank guard? You couldn't have been more specific about who the Creeper was. You know who it is, so tell the gang. So, the gang take the guard to a nearby house, where Mr. Carswell, the bank president, lives, because they found a paper that has the bank president's address. And the bank president, Mr. Carswell, explains to them that the Creeper is a phantom who has been robbing the bank during the night, presumably by having the ability to go through walls. He agrees to look after the guard for the kids, and he sends the kids along to their dance, which is nice of him. And then we cut to the barn dance where everyone's having fun, and what I love is seeing the gang dance together. I especially love the little moment where Velma and Shaggy are dancing together. I've always been sort of a shipper for Velma and Shaggy. I love their relationship. I've always loved the hints in the original series, and I always love their dynamic. So them just, being together and having a little nice, cute dance scene is really nice. And, perpetuates how, them having, romantic feelings in the original series, or, it's hinted at, in a lot of scenes. And, Shaggy and Scooby, then go to the food table, and Shaggy decides to dip his corn on a cob in chocolate syrup. I don't know if that's good or not, but it doesn't sound too bad. That might actually make it pretty tasty. Shaggy's got some great ideas for food, so he definitely has very strange ones as well, but this one wasn't too strange, so I like an idea. Maybe I would love to try that one time, see if it's good actually. But then the lights go out by the Creeper, of course. Not wanting to, everybody gets freaked out. They don't want to dance in the spooky barn. So Fred calms everybody down and says, "Hey, what, everybody? Let's just continue our dance at the malt shop." Because, of course he does. Of course he recommends the malt shop, out of all places. Because it's basically the gang's second home. They always go to that place. To be fair, I love whenever they go to the malt shop, so I totally get it. It's their hangout, it's their place to go, they love it there, so yeah, why not just have fun? So everybody drives off, except for the gang, who stay behind, waiting for Shaggy and Scooby, who agreed to clean up, the table, with basically meaning that they're gonna eat all the food and then clean the table up afterwards. And that's what they do. They stay behind to clean up, but as Shaggy and Scooby are taking the garbage outside before they head out to leave, they run into the Creeper, thinking that he's Scarecrow. But then he makes himself known, and that they realize that he's real, so he scares both Shaggy and Scooby, comes after Fred and Daphne as well, and Velma, and he demands from them the paper from them. One thing that a lot of people didn't know for a while was that the Creeper was saying paper. He wasn't saying creeper. A lot of people used to say that they used to think that he was saying creeper, which I could totally get the confusion, because he doesn't say paper very clearly. So I could totally get the confusion of him saying creeper rather than paper. But I love either one. It would have been cooler either way what he said. So, and the Creeper chases the kids around the countryside. And this cues our third musical chase scene, once again performed by Austin Roberts, and the song is called Daydreaming. Now this is the most famous of Season 2's songs, by far, and it's easily my favorite. It's the best one, because not only is it a catchy song, the lyrics are weird and absurd, with Austin Roberts singing about being in love with an ostrich, and saying how, don't deny it, your love for an ostrich, it's true, try it out. It's so odd, these lyrics about being in love with an ostrich. Such random lyrics, but I love the randomness of it. Not only is the chase scene awesome because of how funny it is and the music's catchy, but the music is so confusing because of the lyrics, that it's just it makes it that much better. Like, the lyrics are so, like, they catch you off guard. You didn't expect, like, something like that to be sung about, but it's a famous song, and it's easily the best of the 3 songs so far. Easily the best. No contest. This song is awesome. It's iconic for a reason, not just for its lyrics, but for and how goofy they are, but how awesome the chase scene is, and how great, the music itself is. It's catchy. I would listen to it on the off time if I could. And at the end of the chase scene, Fred, Daphne, and Velma wind up in a ditch with a horse and cart, because at some point during the chase they take a horse and cart, while Shaggy and Scooby crash into a hen house, after the horse lets them go. Again, love this musical chase scene. Not like I said, it's a great chase scene. It's funny. I laugh every time Shaggy and Scooby get hit get hit in the barn by, I forget what it's called, but and the creeper gets hit by it too. And it's fucking hilarious. I laugh every time it happens. And the song is catchy, it's fun, and the lyrics are just bizarre. It's the weirdest thing to sing about, but I love how bizarre it is, and it gives the song that nice touch. And there's a reason why it's so beloved by the Scooby Doo community, because it's just a fantastic song that you can't ignore. Like, it just has such bizarre lyrics. It's catchy. It has an awesome chase scene with a great villain. So yeah, it's definitely my favorite scene of the episode. I love the musical chase scene in this episode.
Right, let's get out of here. Daydreaming, heads in the sand. Daydreaming, gee, but it's grand. I'm in love with an ostrich. All the neighbors complain, and you see, but she loves me. Can't help it if they don't understand it. It's fun to be in love with an ostrich. And if you haven't tried it, don't deny it, my friend, 'cause it's so much fun to go out in the sun, forget the rest of the world, with your head in the sand. Daydreaming, heads in the sand. Daydreaming, gee, but it's grand. Walking down the street with my ostrich. All the people stare, but I don't care what they say. She never says a word. She's an agreeable bird. She takes my worries away. If you find somebody who loves you, and your friends are all complaining, they're not friends anyway. Just go out in the sun, 'cause it's so much fun. Forget the rest of the world. Put your head in the sand. Daydreaming, heads in the sand. Daydreaming, gee, but it's grand. Daydreaming, heads in the sand. Daydreaming, gee, but it's grand.
So when Shaggy and Scooby notice the creeper coming, they decide to hide in the hen house with the chickens. And after the creeper leaves, Shaggy and Scooby start to go, but a chick hatches where Scooby was at, hiding from. And it immediately attaches itself to Scooby. So we have a little extra, sidekick coming along with Shaggy and Scooby. And meanwhile, Freddy and the girls have found a car hidden in the bushes. It has no identification papers, but they find torn up photographic negatives on the floorboards. So they hear running coming their way after Shaggy and Scooby, have another encounter with the creeper. And they decide to jump, Shaggy and Scooby thinking that it's the Creeper. They and after then they realize who it's Shaggy and Scooby, and after running into Shaggy and Scooby, who like I said were still fleeing from the Creeper, they notice some footprints which lead to a rope bridge spanning over a chasm into a cave. So Fred, offers Scooby a Scooby snack in exchange for going across the bridge, and Scooby accepts, but the baby chick steals his Scooby snack, and I think it's kind of mean that Fred still Fred and Velma are like, "A deal's a deal, Scooby. Go right ahead." Velma, he didn't get a snack. Why would he do it? Like, yeah, he agreed to do it for one snack, but the chick stole a snack. At least give him one. This is kind of life-threatening what he's doing right now. He could fall off that ledge and die. Like, give him a snack. And they're able to get the rope bridge, across, and they all go into the cave. And the cave is the home to the Hermit of the Hills, who cooks, something gross that even Shaggy and Scooby won't eat. And Fred, Daphne, and Velma are, especially really Fred and Velma, are convinced this Hermit is the Creeper. They're like 100%. They're like, this guy is the Creeper. He doesn't fool me. Despite the fact that he's a red herring for the episode. Yeah, we've had, a twist where the red herring ended up being the baddie in the first episode of season 2. But I don't think they're going to pull that again. That'd be too obvious. So they escape from the Hermit, who is very eager for their company. And they make their way back to the Mystery Machine. Velma, like I said, is convinced that the Hermit's the Creeper. So they decide they're going to go drive and, get the sheriff. But once they, open the door getting ready to leave, in the Mystery Machine, they realize that the Creeper is waiting for them behind the wheel of the Mystery Machine. So the Creeper chases them all back to the barn, and we get a couple cool moments. Velma gets a nice moment where when the Creeper steals her glasses, she kicks him in the fucking shin, and and I'm like, yeah, go Velma, show this Creeper who's boss. She did not give a fuck. She showed that Creeper who's boss. You steal her glasses, she's gonna kick your ass. That was an awesome scene for Velma. And then you get a nice chase with Scooby and Shaggy both being chased by the Creeper individually. And then at one point, Fred gets chased by the Creeper. He trips up and trips the Creeper. He apologizes to the Creeper. The Creeper gets fucking pissed and chases back at him. And I laugh all the time every time Fred does that, because it's so wholesome and genuine that he apologized to the Creeper. But how mad the Creeper got when Fred tripped him up and apologized afterwards. He was so mad and chased after all of them. So he chases after the whole gang, and everyone except for Scooby, falls in the the hay bale making machine. And Daphne gets a nice cool moment where she's like, she also is trying to kick the Creeper's ass. So Fred, Daphne, Velma get a moment, all get a moment in this nice little final chase scene, which is pretty cool. And Shaggy asks Scooby to do something, so Scooby presses the button to the hay bale making machine, and leaving the Creeper and the rest of the gang neatly bundled up. And so now that everyone's trapped, including the Creeper, Scooby unmasks the Creeper as Mr. Carswell, the bank president. And that's not really a surprise. I mean, yeah, I know I say that a lot, but really, who else could it have been? The Hermit was such an obvious red herring. They were not going to pull the same thing in episode 1. They might have, but it would have been too obvious. And Carswell was the only other suspect, so yeah, that's the thing. Like, I commend the episode when they do 2 suspects for a villain, But when they make one a red herring that, you know, this obvious that they're trying to throw you off, it's pretty clear that that's not what the episode wants you to think is the villain. Yeah, they throw their curveball in the Mr. Hyde episode, and I commend them for that, but they wouldn't have done that 2 episodes later. People would have expected that so soon, so that was really like a one-time thing that they could get away with, but had they done that again, it probably wouldn't have worked this time, so it kind of had to be Mr. Carswell. But like I said, I love the final chase scene. I love each moment Velma, Daphne, and Fred all get. Velma kicks the creeper in the shins after the creeper steals her glasses. Fred trips up the creeper and apologizes to him, and the creeper gets fucking pissed. And Daphne gets a little ass whooping in there too with the creeper in the hay bale making machine. Shaggy and Scooby don't really. I mean, Scooby helps, you know, capture the villain, so Shaggy doesn't really do much except, you know, decide, you know, to jump into the hay bale making machine. But he does get a nice little funny chase, so it's all right. But it's a cool, nice, you know, final chase scene to end the episode. I think it was a great way to cap off, you know, the episode and the reveal of the creeper.
Uh-oh, wrong turn. You wouldn't hit some asses on, would you?
Looks like I'm a goner. Oops. Sorry about that.
How do we get down from here?
We jump. What else?
Watch it!
Paper! Let go! That's not it!
Take that, you creeper!
Do something! Nice work, Scooby! You caught the creeper! Now bail us out of these hay bales! First thing first! Zoinks! It's Mr. Carswell, the bank president!
How about that?
The sheriff arrives and arrests Carswell, saying that he found the bank guard tied up in the basement of Carswell's house, which is really fucking creepy. Just to think of the notion of Carswell tying up his bank guard in the basement, I would be freaked out if I was that bank guard and fucking scared as shit. Especially if I woke up knowing that the guy that attacked me is in possession of me, and he fucking tied me up in the basement, not knowing what the fuck he was gonna do. He's probably gonna kill him. And it's so creepy just thinking about that. So Mr. Carswell has been robbing his own bank and using the creeper disguise to throw people off his track. But unknown to Carswell, the bank guard had secretly installed an infrared camera that caught Carswell in the act, and so Carswell had to silence the guard. And the blank paper was a photograph that's activated by, you know, heat that showed Carswell looting the safe. So yeah, pretty basic money motive, greedy fuck, like, yeah, nothing special, same old shit, money. You know, the money motives aren't bad, you know, when they're at least, you know, unique enough or don't feel samey, but this one just feels samey. It's so to the point that, you know, it's like been there, done that, you know, basically you just got a greedy fuck, you know, as the villain. But I will commend Carswell for being creepy both in and out of costume, so he's at least a good villain, just not a great motive, unfortunately. So the gang go back on the road, driving to the malt shop, and the gang realize that the chick still hasn't been return to, the hen house. So they tell Scooby, we have one passenger too many, you gotta bring him back. So the episode ends with Scooby returning the baby chick to the hen house, and he bids it farewell, but he notices several other chicks hatching who all see him as their mother. I'm going to give Season 2, Episode 3 of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? 2 stars out of 5. Yeah, this was a different rating than I thought, I was going to give the episode. Very disappointing episode. I'm sure many of you are probably disappointed. I'm sure a lot of you love this episode. But I can't deny how I feel about this episode. Like, I just have to be brutally honest, and just say that, yeah, this is a below average episode, and I'll get into my reasons why, but we'll start with what I like with the episode first, tell you what I like. And so, just start with the positives. Each member of the gang, except Daphne, I feel was good in this episode. Now, if I'm being honest, I think Fred, Velma, and Shaggy, they were okay. By good, I mean like they were okay. They worked for the episode. They served their functions and had a moment or two here and there, but they didn't have enough to where they stood out in the episode like they would normally. Like, it didn't feel like they were good as they always are. It felt like they were, they could have done with a little bit more, but I still feel like Fred, Velma, and Shaggy were utilized fine in the episode. So I still consider it a positive, but I definitely think they feel a bit weaker compared to, other episodes. Scooby, I feel like, is the strongest in this episode, and I feel like he's the most well utilized in the episode. So we'll start off with Fred, who, like I said, I think was good. He got to show off his, he got the service function of being the leader, showing off his leadership skills. So we had that. And like I said in the review, he had a nice, funny moment where he tripped up the creeper and he apologized to the creeper, and then the creeper got fucking pissed and ran towards him. I thought that was a nice little moment, and but I would say that was all Fred had. He served his role as the leader, and had a nice moment. Velma was good too. She was very snarky in this episode, with everybody and the creeper, and obviously served her usual function of helping to piece together the mystery. And she also had that funny moment where she kicked the creeper in the fucking shin and showed him who's boss. She had a nice little awesome moment where she's like, yeah, Velma kicked ass against this villain and for taking her glasses. And like I said, I love that her and Shaggy got a nice little dance together. Like I said, I very much like Velma and Shaggy's relationship. I've always been a fan of the Velma and Shaggy romantic dynamic. So I love when any of the Scooby-Doo shows show that off. So it was nice to see them, have a nice little dance together. It was cute. It was nice. And I thought it was great. That's what the original series does well. As the couple original series, the first few shows, is that they show off, they hint towards Velma and Shaggy's relationship, but they don't overtly, come out and say they're a couple. But you could tell, but you can, piece it together with little hints that they have something going on together. And this episode shows that, they get to have a nice little dance scene together. I'm going to be honest, I was surprised with how Shaggy was utilized in this episode. Like I said, I love his dancing with Velma, for like how I explained before. And I thought he was good. He had some funny moments during some of the chase scenes. But honestly, I feel like he wasn't as humorous as he normally was. And had he not had a few funny moments during the chase scene, I very easily could have said this was not a good episode for Shaggy. Feel like that he was pulled to the wayside, but because he had a nice moment with Velma and had some nice funny moments during certain chase scenes, I felt like he had enough going on to where he didn't feel too underutilized. he was he was still fine, but he wasn't the strongest in this episode. But I still feel like he was good enough. He served his role. He served his function. Not as good as other episodes, but he still had his moments of humor and had some nice moments with Velma and Scooby and the rest of the gang. So I at least appreciate that. Like I said, Scooby Doo I think was the most well utilized out of the whole entire gang in this episode. And that was really because of his nice little subplot that he has with this baby chick. I thought that was a nice little neat subplot for Scooby. He's being like this parent figure and very caring towards this baby chick and having a nice little adventure with this baby chick, bringing it along. I could understand it. Maybe people find the baby chick annoying and kind of see it as like a pre-Scrappy where the baby chick kind of slows things down and maybe feels like it, doesn't really serve a function. And I totally get that. But I just love it because it shows off Scooby's caring, attitude towards animals, other animals besides, dogs. And I just like that he has this nice little parent relationship with this, chick and gets to bring him along for the ride for this nice little adventure. I think it's sweet. And it shows off a nice caring side of Scooby. I think it was a nice little subplot that they didn't need to incorporate in this episode. They could have very easily just not done anything with Scooby, but they did, give him a nice little neat subplot with the baby chick. So, I commend them for doing that. It wasn't, and I think it was nice and cool. I thought it was good. It's not the best subplot in the world. I wouldn't say it was amazing, but it was a nice little cute subplot for Scooby. And it at least, and to be honest, when you have an episode where the rest of the members of the gang don't feel as strong as they normally do, something like Scooby having the subplot, at least, enhances it a little bit. And you just feel like, well, at least they gave someone in the gang attention in this episode. But yeah, I'll talk about why I felt Daphne wasn't used well in my negatives part of the outro. But yeah, every member of the gang was fine. They were solid. They served their function. They weren't as good as previous episodes, but they were good enough. But Daphne, like I said, I felt was not done well, and I will go into that later. So. And another thing I also like to add is that I love that the gang got to act like teenagers in this episode. They got to go to this high school barn dance with their classmates, and they got to have fun together. They just got to be normal teenagers, and something that season 2 really does well that I don't know if season 1 really did was kind of show the gang in their teenage environment. In season 1, I think it was just mystery. But in season 2, they seem to be more focused on humanizing the gang, giving them teenage moments, showing them out of their element, out of detective mode, out of mystery mode, and letting them be teenagers. So I like that they're trying that, and try and do something new for season 2. We saw the gang in the mystery environment for season 1, and they still do that in season 2. Obviously, it wouldn't be a good show without that, but they also show the teenage side now, which is something that I don't think season 1 really showed. There was hints of it, but it wasn't really shown. So I like that the episode did that, and they got to hang out with their classmates and their friends at a high school dance and just have fun together. So I'll always, give a positive for that in the episode. I think the next positive for me was I thought the mystery was pretty solid. I like the hook of why did the creeper attack this bank guard, and why is he so hell-bent on getting this paper from the gang? It's a really nice hooking, hook to the mystery, of being like, why is this creeper, what was the point of him attacking the bank guard? Why did he want this paper so bad? What's so important about this blank piece of paper? So I really love the mystery about it, the mystery in this episode, and I feel like it was a good hook and really was done well in this episode. I think the suspects were all right. The reason I say that is because they gave 2 suspects, and I'm glad they did that. But, they also did the thing where one's a obvious red herring, and the other one is the episode, the suspect the episode wants you to think. So it's pretty obvious who was going to be the villain of this episode. So while I did think the suspects were all right, the episode made it too obvious who the villain was going to be in this episode. Maybe another suspect or 2 probably would have, made it a little bit better, but it's still positive. I still say it's good that they at least didn't have 1 suspect. They at least had 2, but them making it obvious who it was kind of didn't really help things much. So, and finally, I think the biggest positive of the entire episode, and the thing that really saves this episode from being a not so great episode, is the villain himself, the Creeper. And I can see why people would love this episode for the Creeper, but there are more elements than a villain, so I can't just simply say it's a good episode just because the villain's strong. Everything else needs to be strong too in order for me to enjoy it. And the Creeper has nothing to do with the why this episode's disappointment. The Creeper is easily one of the best Scooby Doo Where Are You villains, and one of the best Scooby Doo villains ever. He's a great villain. I love the Creeper, and I think he was great because he was a lot of things. He was very funny in a lot of scenes. He was also very menacing in a lot of scenes. He can be both. He can be both funny and menacing, and in certain scenes. And I like that diversity and making him, it made him stand out from his other villain counterparts. But I also like the man outside the costume, Mr. Carswell, who was the bank president. He was good outside the costume too because of how he told the story of the Creeper. But like I said, in the review, the idea that, from what we heard from the police officer of him tying up the bank guard in the basement, that's fucking creepy. That's like serial killer level shit. Like, that shows how evil Carswell was, that he was going to that type of length to make sure he wasn't getting caught. He was willing to kill this bank guard in order to not be found out that he was the Creeper. So he was both scary in costume and out of costume. And that's what made him an effective villain, was that both sides of the coin were done well. It wasn't, there was no aspect of the villain side that was weak. They were all done really well, and I love how he was both in and out of costume. And the Creeper is just a fantastic villain. There's a reason he's iconic. He's able to walk, it's really his design. I just love his little his weird little design. It's very distinct. And, the way he says paper, when he's going after the gang. And just, the diversity of him being funny in some scenes, him being menacing and scary in other scenes. I think he was done effectively in this episode, especially both out of costume as well. With him, tying up the bank guard, probably going to kill him. Just done really well and solid. So the villain, perfect in this episode. Really no problem issues with the villain. He was great. But now let's get on to the negatives of the episode and the things that are bringing it down to a 2 and what made it such a disappointment. So first you have the clues. So the clues in the episode were very weak. You just had the torn up negatives, the blank piece of paper, the bank president's address, and, it was really... There was nothing pointing towards Carswell. It was just torn up, negatives and a blank piece of paper that they realized was a picture that, needed to be light up with heat. It just wasn't good on the clue front because it wasn't pointing towards any suspect. It wasn't really hinting towards who it could be. It wasn't adding building blocks to who the suspect will be. It was just kind of, useless and didn't help the mystery at all. It brought it down because there was no really mystery aspect to be found. The hook was good, but the clue front was not so great. And like I said in the episode review, the motive was just bland and repetitive. It was a straight up money motive, and I have no problem with the money motive when it's not repeating something from a previous episode. And we're not at the point where, they're starting to run out of ideas. They're only in season 2 of, the Where Are You series. They shouldn't be running this dry out of motives. And it just feels very repetitive, been there, done that. Like, it's a simple money motive. He's a greedy fuck who just steals money from his own bank. Nothing much to it. Not really a strong motive there. Just a very bland and repetitive motive that's been done before, and it just, it doesn't stand out from the pack, and it's just hinders the villain a little bit. But and the mystery, because his motive is just weak. It's just not a good motive. And moving on to Daphne, who I mentioned earlier, who I felt wasn't utilized well in this episode. Besides being like caring to the bank guard, having a nice little caring moment to the bank guard in the beginning, and kicking the creeper's ass, in the hay bale making machine towards the end, Daphne doesn't feel like she serves any role in this episode. She feels underutilized. She feels completely pointless. She feels like she has no place in this story. And compared to the last episode, where she drove the mystery forward and was very much the strongest aspect of last week's episode, it's a severe downgrade. It's like the complete opposite. She feels useless. She feels like she has no role in this episode. Doesn't get to serve any function. Just feels pointless, and that's a shame, because considering how well she was used in the last episode, I was hoping we would continue that trend, but nope. She was used poorly, and I can't ignore that. I tried to find something that could make it feel like Daphne maybe was utilized well enough, but I just couldn't. And I hate to say it, but there was a member of the gang that was just not utilized well and was weak. And that's not a good thing. When you have a member of the gang that isn't utilized well in the episode and feels underutilized and pointless, and could have easily been not in the story at all, that's not a good sign. So that's a very bad thing. A minor negative, which I kind of touched upon earlier with Shaggy and Scooby, was that I felt that the humor was a bit lackluster. And considering how we got back on par with the humor in the last episode, and that was something that I had a problem with in episode 1, it sucks that that's back again. But unfortunately, yeah, the humor is not the strongest in this episode. It really feels like the humor was not there, or at least very underutilized. It's a shame. I wish we had more humor, but it just was a bit lackluster in this episode. And it's not a huge thing that brings down the episode, but it's something that could have been a lot better, a lot more improved. And considering how well it was in the last episode, I'm very disappointed how we did with the humor in this episode. And now we've reverted back to episode 1 level of humor, where it's just a underutilized humor. And then you have the final negative, which is the atmosphere and setting of the episode. Really non-existent and dull. There was no tension or suspense, no atmosphere to speak of. I didn't feel suspenseful or any tension throughout the episode. There really wasn't any spooky Scooby Doo atmosphere that was going on. Very, very devoid of atmosphere, and the location, the setting, was not unique enough to stand out as a location. Dull, non-existent, very boring, just a barn in a countryside. Not something I'm looking for in Scooby Doo. It's just a shame. We started off season 2 strong, but now we're at a point where we're We have a dull setting and a not good atmosphere. Very disappointing. I was really hoping, but yeah, the barn and countryside just didn't do it for me. Didn't have any tension or suspense at all in the atmosphere, and wasn't a unique enough location. Just felt like nothing. There's really nothing, cool about the location. It's just shit you could see anywhere. It's like normal. It's a normal run-of-the-mill location. It doesn't feel Scooby Doo-esque. It's something that I'm looking for. So, yeah, very disappointing. So yeah, overall, guys, I would not recommend this episode to fans and newcomers of the show. It's a shame to have to say that, but I just have to say it. It's a disappointment to me. It's a disappointing episode that really is mostly saved by a strong villain. The Creeper is a fantastic villain, don't get me wrong. I love the Creeper. He's a great villain. There's nothing wrong with him. It's just a good villain can't save, it can't be... I think that's why people love this episode, is because of the strong villain. But the strong villain is not enough to make the episode a really good episode. As great as the strong villain is, the protagonists need to be just as strong. The mystery, the clues, and the motive need to be strong as well. And the atmosphere and setting gotta be strong as well. And while the gang were solid enough, besides Daphne, they weren't at their strongest. And I only gave them a pass because they had their moments and they served their function, apart from Daphne. And, I gave the mystery a pass because I felt like it was a nice hook. And the Creeper was, I gave the suspects a pass because they at least tried to give two suspects. The Creeper was the really only major highlight and the major positive of this episode. If the Creeper wasn't as strong, this easily could have been a 1-star episode. This could have been an episode that I could have considered one of the worst ones. But it's pretty much saved by the Creeper. And, I'm glad the episode had a fantastic villain, but that's not enough to make a good episode. So, yeah, disappointing episode, but there are moments to go back to it, so it's not one that I'll rewatch a lot. But if I'm in the mood for like a episode with a strong villain, this might be one that I might go back to. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please give it a like if you did. Comment down below your thoughts on the episode. Do you like this episode? If you do, please tell me why. I'm sure a lot of you do. What makes you love this episode? Do you hate this episode? I'd be interested to hear that. Is this episode kind of like a disappointment for you as well? Are you in that camp with me, or are you, do you despise this one and feel like every aspect of it is weak? Or are you somewhere in the middle where you just think it's an average episode of the series? I'm curious for your thoughts, so let me know. And subscribe for more Scooby Doo content like this, or if you're just interested in any of my other content, we'll be having plenty more Scooby Doo content in the future. We're starting, we got more Scooby Doo content for, the summer special and Scooby month. So I won't be going away with any Scooby Doo content anytime soon. So if you're looking forward to Scooby Doo, stay tuned because we'll have plenty more of it. But if you're looking for something else, it may be a while before that. So you'll have to wait a little while. But I'm okay with it because I love talking about Scooby Doo with you guys. And I love finishing off Season 2. So I don't care. I'm glad we're going through Season 2 and finishing off the Where Are You series. So we can move on to the next series. And if you can also follow me on Facebook, where I have discussions about things we talk about on both my channels, and Twitch, where I hope to live stream in the future. So in my next video, I will be continuing the 2023 summer special with my Season 2 Episode 4 review of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? Scooby's Night with a Frozen Fright. Yes, the caveman episode. That'll be interesting. I can't wait to see whether... I believe the caveman episode isn't viewed highly, so we'll have to see how I feel about it. If I feel the same way, or if I think it's better. But it'll definitely be... it's not a It's not, you know, one of the most fondly remembered episodes, but it'll be interesting to go back to see if maybe this is a good episode that is overlooked, or if this is, you know, not as good as an episode as people make it out to be. So, but yeah, if you want to tune in for that, stay tuned, you know, for my next video, and we'll be reviewing season 2, episode 4. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace out.
Scooby Dooby Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby Dooby Doo, where are you? We need some help from you now. Come on, Scooby Doo, I see you, pretending you got a sliver. You're not fooling me, 'cause I can see the way you shake and shiver.